here on Cinco de Mayo, it does appear the nation's capital is about to be awarded an NFL draft, Mike. Looks like that's happening.
I got one last point.
Sure.
Is it possible Aaron Rodgers is wearing a wedding ring as a sociological experiment like Costanza once did?
Good question. I don't know. I mean, I'm serious. This was the lead item on an email from the NFL Network today, because we're just waiting, just like everyone else, to see if there's any advancement in his personal life that will cause him to be closer to saying I do to the Steelers in his professional life. Mike?
And see, for Rodgers, Rich, I think the sociological experiment wouldn't be, let's see if women are more attracted to me while wearing a wedding ring. It would be, can I get the media to talk about it so I can go on McAfee's show at some point in the future and complain about the fact that we're talking about his wedding ring?
When are the Steelers, are you hearing about a drop dead date, Mike, or no? Not at all.
I was told before the draft, and I know that Aaron Rodgers prides himself on no one knowing anything about anything he ever does.
Right.
I was told before the draft by someone in a position to know that Rodgers to the Steelers is happening. It's just a question of when. And it dawned on me last week, Rich, what's coming up on May the 14th? That is the day the schedule gets revealed.
Correct.
I remember last year how Mike North, the VP of Broadcast Planning and Operations, said the Jets owe us one, and they had all those short week primetime games early in the season. If you're Rodgers, don't you just at this point wait until after the schedule is out? Because it's not like the Steelers are going to get fewer primetime games than what they'd otherwise get. But if you drop Rodgers officially onto the Steelers, there's a chance they're going to get more, especially early in the season.
Well, especially when you look at their schedule, Mike, they stroll through the NFC North and the AFC East, both of Rodgers' previous stomping grounds. And speaking of grounds stomping, the road games include a visit to the Jets and famously a spot where he once put on a championship belt with his hands to say that he owned the team and the Bears. There are many, and the Packers are on their list as well, along with the rest of the AFC North. I mean, good Lord, are these games that with the Bills as well, Seahawks? This would be a knockdown drag-out for a lot of the league's television partners to say, we want the Steelers.
And if it all falls through, it's Mason Rudolph. Have fun with that.
Dude.
Primetime network partners, including NBC, my employer. So I assume they're operating under the assumption that Rodgers is going to join the Steelers. But we know with Rodgers, nothing is official until he goes on McAfee's show and tells us it's official. I was told it's happening. Until it happens, who knows what Rodgers is going to do. But at this point, when you look at what the Steelers did or didn't do in the draft, what Art Rooney said during the draft, I think that was the clearest indication yet, the way he characterized, I believe Aaron wants to come here. They didn't draft anybody who's going to compete to play quarterback this year in taking Will Howard. They had multiple shots at Shedeur Sanders. I think the seat is being kept warm for Aaron Rodgers, and they expect him to show up, and there would probably be much consternation at the team facility if they get a text message or a FaceTime one day, because we know the phone doesn't work at his house, telling them, sorry, I've decided not to.
When it's all said and done, Brock Purdy's number per year starts with a 5, and then what's the next number? Lower or higher than a 5? Not to go Price is Right on you here, but lower or higher than a 5?
I laid out, and I try to find patterns, and I try to take things that have happened and extrapolate what will happen next. The George Kittle contract that was just signed last week, when we got the full numbers, because you know how the game goes, there's there's the big number that comes out and everybody sees it, and then a day or two later you get the real numbers. I think what's going to happen, and this is based on the Kittle contract, I think Purdy's going to have 2 years, fully guaranteed, sizable money, maybe like the Kirk Cousins $90 million over 2 years, which will be a hell of a lot of money for a guy that's made $2.3 million from the 49ers in 3 total seasons of football. But when you see the new money average per year, that's the big number that gets compared to all the others. There are ways to pump that up. There are ways to put some money into the back end years to get him north of 55. I'm thinking it's going to be 55.1, which will put him ahead of everyone but Dak Prescott and Josh Allen But when you scratch it and look at it, it's probably going to be, and this is just my interpretation based on Kittle's contract, it's going to be a 2-year commitment for a lot of money. Year 3, maybe partially guaranteed, maybe a way to unlock more guarantees for year 3. But, no team other than the Browns, and we saw how that worked out, Rich, no team makes a commitment of more than 3 years, fully guaranteed, to a quarterback on a contract other than the rookie deal. The Dolphins did it with Tua Tagovailoa. Others have done it. Usually it's 2 years. For some teams like the Seahawks, Sam Darnold, Geno Smith, 1 year. Others have 1 year. Matthew Stafford, year at a time. I think it's going to be 2 years, clear and firm, guaranteed from signing with Brock Purdy. And I would guess somewhere between 90 and 100 million. And then after that, it's going to be year to year for the 49ers with some back-end years that there'll probably be a new contract before we get to them, but those numbers will make that APY. That'll allow the agent to use the Purdy contract to try to get new clients, because that's the whole ball game. You get that number out there, the tweet mentions the agent, and then the agent is the superstar that hopes the phone starts ringing like, Saul when he does the magic fingers to try to get the phone to ring.
Nice. You want to call your shot? When does it happen? Training camp, prior to training camp, opening training camp? What do we got? What's your guess?
Let's say before OTAs.
Wow.
I'll go with before OTAs. Because even though he's got the red jersey or whatever color the 49ers wear, because they wear red jerseys, but whenever he's got the don't touch jersey, there's still something could happen. You're out there and you're in the fray, and you could have an injury that would completely derail his effort to get paid.
Yes.
I think from his perspective, I'm not taking part in a single snap of OTAs unless I have my...
9 days now removed from Shedeur Sanders finally hearing his name from the podium in Green Bay. What's your opinion on what happened in your reporting?
Simplest explanations are often the most easy to digest, especially for someone with a relaxed brain like me. At the end of the day, Rich, I spoke to a GM last week. I wrote about this in the aftermath of the conversation. There was a perception that Shedeur Sanders entered the process acting more like he was being recruited than he was being interviewed. And Dion, his father, kind of did the same thing in 1989. Great story about how he met with the Giants. They dropped this giant binder in front of him with this long test in it. And he said, when do you guys pick? They said number 18. He got up and left. He said, I don't have time for this. I'm not going to be on the board when you draft. Dion had once-in-a-lifetime talent. Dion could get away with that. No one was going to be scared away by an attitude that, hey, I'm one of the best players in the draft. I'm one of the best players ever. Pick me or don't. When you're talking about a guy who doesn't have the same skill set as his dad and who plays quarterback, a position where you have to demonstrate a certain amount of commitment and willingness to show up early and stay late and all of that, I can understand how it started and how it became that free fall that went all the way to the Browns at 144. And then, of course, the Browns, who have an obsession with analytics, they're looking at the draft board. They're seeing the gap in their best available players between Shedeur Sanders and everybody else. They